Hello everyone, hope you're doing well today. Welcome to the Young Conservatives for Christ podcast. I am John Martin, the Victorian State Director for the Young Conservatives for Christ. And today we're going to talk through some of the news that's been going on. We're going to look at the digital ID bill and its recent passing and the dangers to do with that, and also age verification, which directly is involved in that, as well as climate headlines and how we look at climate headlines. The Never Again is Now rally that was in Melbourne, and freedom fighter Nick Patterson wins in the courts after about 4 years. And let's get into it, and let's start off with the digital ID bill. It just recently passed Parliament, the federal parliament to be exact, and the mainstream media, they did not touch this bill at all. They did not look at it at all. The only closest thing to mainstream was Sky News. They were the only ones that I could find that looked at it. But let's see how the Australian government is marketing the digital ID bill to the Australian people.
Constantly verifying your ID can be a hassle. Sharing your driver's license, proof of age card, passport, Medicare card, birth certificate and address details puts all that information at risk of falling into the wrong hands. But there's a solution that makes our lives a whole lot easier and our personal info a whole lot safer. Say hello to Australia's digital ID system. It's a straightforward, safer way of verifying who you are online, putting you in control of your information and providing a secure and convenient way to access online services. Picture this. You're changing jobs, getting a new phone, or applying for a loan, so you have 3 copies of your private information stored who knows where. Good news. In the future, you'll be able to do all of this without sharing copies of your personal ID documents. Wherever you are, no long queues, no paperwork. And once you've chosen and set up a digital ID, you can use it again and again for services connected to the system. Did you know there's already a lot you can do under Australia's digital ID system? Things like using your MyGov ID to do your annual tax return or setting up your access to claim back childcare costs online. In a world where cybersecurity is top of mind, the digital ID system safeguards your personal information and saves you time when you need to verify your ID online. Australia's digital ID system brings together government and industry digital IDs that meet strong privacy and security standards. This will mean more secure digital ID options for you to choose from and more ways for you to use them. So why not join some of the millions of people already verifying their ID through Australia's digital ID system?
Yeah, it sounds pretty good, doesn't it? It's got all of the things that'll make you feel good. It's got the cultural buzzwords. In one frame, it had inclusive, voluntary, secure, convenient. It's everything you want to hear. And for those who don't understand exactly what the digital ID is all about, it's all about having all of your documents put in an online identity known as you that you can use for government entities and non-government entities alike. You don't have to use you don't have to go and find your old documents. It's not convenient enough. So we're going to make it more convenient for you, and we're going to give you your own identity online. But the problem with this is having all your documents in one place, run by the government of all people. It's, for one, it's prone to hacking, as most things are. Yeah, so there is a big risk of losing all of your documents all at once instead of piece by piece, which is probably better if you want to lose any of your data at all, which you obviously don't. But another thing is, this is all in the hands of the government, all in one place. And this digital ID, at the moment, it's voluntary, but unfortunately, we've seen how voluntary things have gone. We saw Scott Morrison said the COVID vaccine was going to be voluntary. Was it voluntary? What about for the people who lost their jobs? Was it voluntary? For the people that were forced to take it and were injured because of it, was it voluntary? And obviously it was not voluntary, and people have been suffering the consequences of it now. So this is said to be voluntary, but once they get a reasonable amount of people using it, it won't be voluntary anymore. If they can get a reasonable amount of people, a percentage of the population that are willing to use it, then they'll get everyone to use it. That's how they've snuck through things recently. They often use scare campaigns. We don't like to think about it like that, but a recent Q&A, someone from the ABC, she said that often scare campaigns by the media are actually telling people what they think is going on rather than what is actually happening. So we have to be vigilant and careful. And if you think about it, during the COVID, the Canadian truckers, their bank accounts were shut off because they were protesting what happened during the COVID. Their bank accounts, their money, all gone. And this digital ID bill, eventually they're going to use it. You can link it. You'll be able to link it to your bank account. So your digital identity, it's going to be linked to your MyGov, your bank account. Any government entity or even non-government entity will have access to this stuff. And with the tyranny that we saw during the COVID, do we really want that to happen again? So we have to be careful with it. And another thing is this will probably be what they use for the age verification that they're looking to implement to ban social media for below 16. I don't know if it is, but I don't know what else they're going to use. It's going to be something that will have to be, as the mainstream media have put it, something that will have to be used by the whole population of Australia. That was just recently in the mainstream media. They're already touting it as a national take-up. And if you want my opinion on whether we should ban social media for under 16-year-olds, I don't think it's a bad idea in principle. In principle, I don't think people under 16 need social media. I didn't have social media for many years. I'm 18 now. And I turned out okay, as many other people did. The problem with it is, do we really want to give the government the power to ban people from using something or banning a platform? That's the problem we have here, because, again, we've taken issues that parents, children, families, communities should be dealing with themselves and making it a governmental issue, when in fact parents should be the ones who are saying, I'm not going to let my children use social media because it's not right for them. But then parents say things like, oh, I fell under the pressure, and they were saying things like, everybody has one, so I need to have one. But that's just not true. There are plenty of ways of social engagement that don't have to do with social media. And parents can be the ones to make that decision for their children, because they are the parents. In the recent budget, the government put aside money for age verification allocation, and the Australian Christian lobby, they've been cautiously optimistic, as this headline says. It says, we commend Minister Michelle Rowland and the government for recognising the importance of age verification technology in protecting children from accessing inappropriate online content. The ACL has consistently advocated for measures to address the proliferation of online pornography and its potential harms. We appreciate the government's intention to assess the effectiveness of age assurance products currently available, while also taking into account the privacy and security concerns of Australian internet users. Striking the right balance between protection and privacy is crucial to ensuring public support for these initiatives. The problem with this is we're giving power to the government where we shouldn't have to require the government to be acting on these things. Giving the government power to verify people's age online, we are giving them the power to have people's data where they should not be. We've already been giving the tech giants our data over and over and over again, and now the government wants it because it's the new way of the economy. So that's the problem, as I see it. Parents should be the ones who are saying, we are not going to let our kids use social media. There are very easy ways of stopping the use of social media through software and blocking different things that are available within the settings of devices. But overall, if someone is at that risk of using something that is going to be of immense harm to them, the parents should be the ones who are going to say, we are not going to let you use this because it's not safe for you. We want the government to be our friend, but unfortunately the government isn't our friend. But nevertheless, we have to pray for our government, and we have to serve the government as it says in 1 Peter 2, Titus 3, and Romans 13. But ultimately, we have to serve God rather than man, as Paul, actually no, I think it might be Peter, demonstrated in Acts chapter 5. We must defend the freedoms that God has given us. But as far as we can, we have to be peaceable with everyone, as it says in Romans chapter 12, towards the end of it. As far as we can, we need to be at peace with everyone. Even though in this social media world, it's very difficult to be at peace with everyone, because we like to argue, we like to have our opinions, and we don't like to debate, so therefore we have not much peace. But God is the God of peace. He calls us to be peacemakers in this world. But as this organization stands for, that doesn't mean we sit around and let our freedoms be stripped away. We stand for faith, family, and life. So yeah, in terms of this digital ID, I encourage you to tell others that while it is voluntary, do not use it. Do not even play around with it. Just don't use it, because when the government gets a few people involved in it, they will eventually make it mandatory, just like they did the COVID vaccine. And that leads into what I'm going to talk about next, and that's how we assess media headlines. We need to be very careful how we read a headline, because we have to remember to separate fact from opinion. And often they are intertwangled, if that is a word, in mainstream media. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples. This is from NBC in America. Migraines are getting worse, and climate change could be partly to blame. Doctors suggest that climate change, which causes more erratic and severe weather conditions, may be a trigger for more intense migraines. And I don't even have to actually go that far in this article before they debunk themselves. It says migraines are increasing in frequency and intensity among Americans. Could climate change be a reason? Although the number of Americans who have migraines has remained stable for the last 30 years, there's the fact, their impact on people's daily activities has become much worse. Like this, migraines have been stable for the past 30 years. So how can it be caused by climate change? That doesn't make any sense. And here's another one. This one is more closer to home. This is SBS. Summer of 2023 was the Northern Hemisphere's hottest in 2,000 years, according to new research. The stark finding comes from one of two new studies released on Tuesday, as both global temperatures and climate warming emissions continue to climb. Scientists had quickly declared last year's June to August period was the warmest since record keeping began in the 1940s. Now, if the record keeping began in the 1940s, how can they tell us that this has been the hottest summer in 2,000 years? Can anyone explain that? They're going to try to explain it. New work published in the journal Nature suggests the 2023 heat eclipsed temperatures over a far longer timeline, a finding established by looking at meteorological records dating to the mid-1800s. Now, they just said that record keeping began in 1940. In the 1940s. Now they're saying they've got meteorological records dating to the mid-1800s. Which is it? And temperature data based on the analysis of tree rings across 9 northern sites. Now, tree rings, that must be a valid method of evaluating the age of something, or according to this, the temperature of something. I've never heard someone using tree rings to try and find the temperature of something, but I went to a website called answersingenesis.org, and they talk about tree ring dating, I'm not going to read you the whole article. I'm just going to read you a small snippet and you can go ahead and read the rest of the article. Dating tree rings is not as simple as it might seem. Several factors determine the growth rate of trees and the width of their growth rings. The soils, altitude, water table, climate, seasons, and weather. Droughts, fires, and periods of abnormally high rainfall will impact the growth pattern of tree rings. So a tree will not always have one growth ring per year. Now that doesn't talk about tree ring determining how hot something was. It doesn't talk about that. But it does talk about how faulty tree ring dating is. It actually goes through different ways where they've said something is a few million when it's actually at best a couple of thousand. I brought those two articles to you just to remind you that you got to read the headline. You got to separate the fact from opinion. That's very important. And in New South Wales, if you have solar panels, you are going to be charged for using them. Solar panels were made out to think, I'm going to make electricity cost cheaper for me. I'm just going to buy this solar panels at a high cost, and in a few years' time, it will have made me break even and eventually a profit. But now it seems not so much. Because of all of the solar panels that have been added to the grid, there has been too much power that is being generated by solar panels during peak hour between 10 and 3. So now there's so much energy, they've got nowhere to put it. They've got no way to manage it. So now they're charging you for putting it into the grid. Renewable energy. And here's Ben Fordham talking on 2GB about this problem that they have.
Do you have solar panels on the roof? Well, you're about to be getting a bit of a shock. You're going to be charged for exporting solar power to the grid. Yeah, they're going to charge you. Between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m, Ausgrid will charge households 1.2 cents for every kilowatt hour of electricity generated by the solar panels. The new policy will punish solar panel owners who don't own a home battery to store the energy they produce. There are nearly 1 million households in New South Wales with solar panels. Only about 70,000 have a battery. In some Sydney suburbs, they reckon up to 70% of homes have solar. So this is going to impact a lot of people. The details are shared in today's Sydney Morning Herald. The headline, solar panel owners slugged by Ausgrid for generating too much power. And we've attempted to do the numbers on this. For the average household with solar, it'll cost between $100 and $200 a year in extra charges if they export their solar power. And Wayne's texted in this morning. He's done the numbers too, and it's pretty similar to ours. He says the new solar charges will cost him $187 a year. $187. So there goes more than half of the $300 power bill subsidy announced in Tuesday's budget. So why are people being charged for producing power on their own roof? Well, Ausgrid is charging people because during the day there's too much solar energy coming into the grid and it's costing them money to manage it. So at about 4 p.m, solar panels stop producing electricity as the sun goes down. Baseload generators like coal plants are forced to rapidly scale up to keep the lights on, and this happens at peak time when millions of people get home from work and school and they start using more power. By the way, our coal plants were never designed to do this, and the huge cost of it is passed from power generator to power retailer like Ausgrid, and then it's passed on to us via power bills. And this is one of the reasons why power bills keep going up. And it's why Ausgrid is now charging people for exporting solar power to the grid. This is not going to go down well. Ausgrid will pay households for exporting solar power to the grid between the peak hours of 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. But the catch is this. The sun isn't shining at night and therefore solar panels don't produce power. The households that can't afford a battery, well, sorry, bad luck. You'll get charged for the solar power you generate during the day, and I think most people are saying this is unfair. The Grattan Institute Energy Program Director Tony Wood has been one of the biggest supporters of solar power, and he makes the point that households were given strong incentives to put solar panels on their roofs. Households were told that they would be paid for the electricity they export to the grid, but now they're going to be charged. And weren't we told that power bills were going to come down as more renewables entered the grid? So why is the opposite happening? As Tony Wood says, the move is very clumsy and it will put consumers offside. Well, there are a lot of people who thought they were doing the right thing by putting solar panels on the roof, and now they're going to pay the price.
And they keep telling us about this big green dream that they have of eliminating fossil fuels and gas, coal, no nuclear energy. We shouldn't use that. We should just use solar and wind farms. But if there's no wind, you're not going to get any power. If there is no sunlight, you are not going to get any power. They're not reliable and they're not renewable, because solar panels are not made from renewable resources, and wind farms, they don't have a long lifespan. They have a short lifespan as well. And we use lithium batteries all the time in Teslas and storage batteries as well, and e-bikes, and they're not reliable either. So they talk about all of this so-called renewable energy, when in fact it's not renewable. They call it reliable energy, but it's not reliable. So be wary of the green dream. Be very wary. And now to my home state of Victoria, finally. The Never Again Is Now rally was in the city. Full disclosure, I did not go. They say there was around 7,000 people there, according to police. And the mainstream media did cover the rally, sort of. There was a lot of Liberal members that went to the rally in support of Jewish people, which was good to see. Hopefully, they won't just say that they support Jews, but in Parliament they actually will support Jews. Because calling for the murder of any people is wrong, and we have to stand up and say it is wrong. In an article that Bill Muhlenberg wrote on the Daily Declaration, and says here, the German Lutheran pastor Martin Niemöller, I think, at first did not oppose the Nazis when they came to power, but he soon turned against them. He was arrested in 1937 and spent the next 8 years interned in concentration camps. In 1946, he released the famous poem, First They Came. The main version of it goes like this. First they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out, because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out, because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out, because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. So that's why we stand up in support of the Jewish people. And if you saw the videos from the protest of the pro-Palestinian, well, I'd rather call them pro-Gazan people, they're so horrid. They use so many swear words. They attacked people that were trying to go to the pro-Jewish rally. And that's why we must stand up for the people that are being attacked. Because if we don't, nobody will. Because that is the attitude that has got us here today. People said, someone else, it's not about me. Don't worry about it. And look where we are today. Philosophically, if that's a word, when you take an argument and you take it to its full extent, it's where we are today. The arguments of feminism have uprooted feminism itself and made it subordinate to transgenderism. We've seen postmodern belief become popular, and it's breeded this generation of people that are supporting the wiping out of Israel. And so when you think of an argument, we need to remember what happens when I take it to the fullest extent. Will it glorify God, or will it degrade God? That is very important. And just in passing, John Pesutto, he has settled 2 defamation cases from when he expelled Moira Deeming from the parliament, and he associated pro-female people with Nazis. Sorry, I'm just watching some ducks chasing some other ducks. But he's still got one more defamation case to go, and that is with Moira Deeming herself. And there's one more story that I want to bring you, and it's a real win for free speech and fighting for our freedoms. Nick Patterson, he won his court case against the Victorian police. And if you don't know the story, I'll leave a link in the description going through the whole case where he talks with RVM and Rebel News. But basically how it went was, during the lockdown, they had a protest against the COVID mandates. When the police ordered them to go to their car, they walked towards their car. About 10 meters away from their car, the police pounced on one of this group of people that was separated from the rest of the buddies. And he did nothing at all. You can see that in the video, that he was just walking to his car. They came out of nowhere and attacked him, and then the rest of them said, we can't let this happen, so they went to go protect him, and then the rest of the police came on. And Nick Patterson, who in this case is about, his arm was dislocated, and he was bleeding, and he was in jail. I think he was put in jail for about 30 days, I think, something like that. And some of his friends were also, similar was done, but their cases were dropped of recent. And now his has also been dropped by the prosecution. And the judge was very scathing against Victoria Police. And now he said that he's going to be suing Victorian Police in a civil case, as well as some of the members of the police force specifically. And that's a real win for freedom. It is possible to win in the courts if you've got enough money and if you've got enough time. It's been 4 years since this happened. It's taken that long for him to win. And he was quite happy about it. He wasn't worried about how long it would take. I think it took as long as it had to, and he's really happy about it. I think we're all very happy about it. But the thing is, we can't wait 4 years every time to try and win a case, and we don't have the money. People don't have the money to fight cases like this against the government, even if the law is on their side. This is a win for the people, that they were wrong and unjustified in their attacking of Nick Patterson and his friends. So yeah, I guess that is all for today on the Young Conservatives for Christ podcast. Check us out on our website and become a member today in whatever state. I'm going to say Victoria because I'm from Victoria, and I'm in Gilles Park today. It's very cold, a bit sunny, a lot of ducks and birds around, but it's very cold. And yeah, so become a member, get involved, go to our Instagram and Facebook pages, go to our YouTube channel, go to the podcast on whatever podcast platform that you use, and yeah, become involved, become a member, and stand up for the freedoms that we have today while we still have them. And God bless. Have a good day.